Some think I'm a bit strange, especially people who aren't particularly fond of cemeteries or they're a little bit scared. They usually give you the strangest reactions. I do know that there's a lot of people out there who think cemeteries are a waste of space. I think personally a lot of those people are probably those that are scared of cemeteries, and that's their best defence that they have. My grandmother used to pick me up for school holidays. We would stop in little cemeteries to have morning tea or lunch, and she always used to tell me that this was the best place in that town to learn about the history of that town, and it should be respected. The reason I came back to the cemetery is a friend of mine and I were transcribing cemeteries, and I said to her, we should be doing some Queensland ones. And I dragged her to South Brisbane Cemetery. When I saw what the cemetery looked like, at first I was quite angry because these are people's graves and this wasn't a really good way to treat our ancestors and the people who started Brisbane. So I knew I had to do something. That's when I said, I know how we can save the cemetery, and we're going to start the Friends of South Brisbane Cemetery. I've discovered myself that there are no people to look after a lot of the graves in there. So we have identified a lot of them, and we do try to make sure that they are looked after and hopefully looked after in the future as well. A lot of headstones say gone but not forgotten. So it's one of my goals to make sure that they're never forgotten about. I've helped a lot of people with different things, but one of the ones that I really do remember is back in around 2009, two ladies came to the cemetery and they were looking quite lost, and I went up and I asked if I could help, locate a grave for them. And it was an older lady and her elderly mother. What they wanted to do was to find the unmarked grave of her sister who was she was stillborn. And back in those days, a lot of the times the babies that were stillborn were just taken away, buried. The parents didn't even know where they got buried, what cemeteries or anything like that. So I found out the grave number and everything, and then I took them up to the grave, marked it out properly, and then I said, this is the spot here, and they both just burst into tears. And so did I, actually, because that was the one thing she wanted to do before she died. It was about a month later, that's when I noticed the little plaque had gone in that spot, and it was a beautiful little plaque with the full name for the baby and the date it was born and the date it died, which was the same day. But it then just meant something a lot more than, well, they were remembered. So it's things like that which also make the cemeteries very important. Again, that's closure for that person. They finally know where they are, and it gives them a little bit of peace. Cemeteries are more for the living. They are places where, of course, the dead are laid to rest, but the living come to remember, reflect. They sit at graves, they clean graves, spend time, sit there and think about the person who's passed away. Death is a part of life, and that's probably the best way that you need to look at it, because it will happen eventually. But it just would be nice knowing that, once you're gone, and like with everybody else, that, people remember that you once were here, you made a bit of a difference, no matter what sort of a difference that is. I think that's the part that scares me more about people passing away, is people forgetting them, probably is the thing that's maybe the saddest. And that's why I try and make sure that doesn't happen to the residents of South Brisbane.